Okay, so we're heading into the DLC on the road to Orphan. It's actually the road to Lawrence. I do Orphan before Lawrence, but Orphan is the more interesting fight, I think. So I don't run the DLC, going to every nook and cranny and crevice, you know, trying to find every fucking item, every fucking weapon. I don't do that. I kind of just get through the areas to get to the bosses. There is a ton of quality stuff in the DLC that I don't care about. Really, I mean, in my other runs, I've already gotten it, or I'm not going to use it, so I don't give a shit. You know, the whirligig saw is a great weapon if you want to get it. The amygdalin arm is crap. You probably shouldn't use it, but if you want to get the trophy, you got to go get it. So yeah, I don't do that. So we are getting transported to the Hunter's Nightmare, where we will run to Ludwig. You'll see me. I fight this first hunter, and I do this not to try to showcase how to get your ass kicked, or you know, like try to give like some sort of tip and trick or strategy. I'm basically testing my L2 button because it's still fucked up, and I want to know how it's gonna do against one of these hunters, because I got to use it later, and I want to make sure that, you know, it's okay that I don't get fucked later on, you know. So I had made the comment that I don't like Lawrence, and that's true. I don't like Lawrence as a boss. It's my opinion anyway, that he is the worst boss in this game. And I say that with a good amount of salt coming out of me. Lawrence is hard for me. I haven't really mastered that fight. And part of me thinks that the arena is a bit too small for some of the bullshit that he dishes out. But at the same time, you know, I've beaten him before without any problems with the arena, so I think a lot of that is just salt. That said, I do believe that the Old Hunters is the best DLC, hands down, that FromSoft has released across all the Souls games. The aesthetics, the enemies, the bosses, the music, the new items you get, like, it's all top tier. It's all great. The lore, what it adds to the vanilla game, you know, it's all just, I don't want to say perfect, because like nothing's perfect, right? But it's pretty goddamn close to perfect. And I think it's the best DLC they've ever made. I could run it, you know, all day long. It's great. Not to say that I haven't enjoyed the other DLCs, but I would say that Artorias of the Abyss is pretty close to being up there with Old Hunters. And this is all subjective, right? If you disagree, that's I respect that 100%. But I didn't like the aesthetics so much of Artorias. I didn't like Ulasil so much, and everything between a Sanctuary Guardian and getting to Artorias, I didn't love so much, and I wasn't really in love with the aesthetics of getting to Manus, the Abyss, and some of those enemies. I wasn't feeling it, to be honest with you, but all the bosses and the lore implications and all that, top tier. If only for fucking Artorias, who is fucking amazing. And baby Sif, puppy Sif. Right here, if you run up to the door and you just sort of push forward, I've never died here. I get clipped a little bit here. It does really, like, you know, next to no damage, really. But I've never died doing that, so you'll be safe. And those Cthulhu monsters can be hard for some people. I'll show you how to deal with this one fairly easily. You can deal with the other two near Ludwig's fog gate the same way. So yeah, I mean, Artorias of the Abyss is up there with the old hunters. I just wasn't a big fan of Ulasil, and you know, all opinion. And I would say the rest of the, like, Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls 2 DLCs are... And again, when I talk about these DLCs, they're relative to the other games in the Souls universe, right? It's not like I'm comparing, like when I talk about, you know, if I say that the Ringed City was disappointing, I'm not comparing that to the DLC, like Valley of the Yetis from Far Cry 4 or something like that. I'm not doing that. It's disappointing compared to the other types of content that we've gotten from the other Souls games, right? And even then, I'm not really trying to compare so much because, you know, you don't really want to do that. Different game, you know, but Ashes of Ariandel, Ariamis was my favorite area in Dark Souls 1. Right? I loved it. And I was really excited for Ariandel. And aesthetically, it was fucking awesome. And Freed was fucking awesome. I'm going to agree with DMod a bit and say that, you know, you moved at Dark Souls pace and Freed moved at Bloodborne pace. And that was a problem a little bit for me. But other than that, it was great. So really quick right here. If you hang a right here, I go left. If you go right down this path, you'll come to a cave with a Gatling gun enemy and Bloodstar Beast and some wolf enemies. You can go in there and get some chunks and the amygdalin arm. You can come here early game and get those chunks and level your weapon up a bit more. I wouldn't get hit though if you do that because you're going to get fucked. But you can run this area like right after Amelia, get those chunks, and then level up to... I don't know that you can get to a +8 before the shadows. Like, I run Canehurst before the shadows, right? And I get those chunks, and I get to a +7. You might be able to get to a +8 if you run these chunks in the DLC. I'm not 100% sure on that, because I don't do it, so I haven't committed that to memory or anything. But so yeah, Ariandel was very interesting. It was short, and I did not like Champion's Gravetender, really, as a fight. You know, it felt a bit redundant in the Souls universe. But it was, you know, it was quality content, I felt. The Ringed City, okay, there are lots of problems with the Ringed City, you know. I feel like it was beautiful. Like, there were some areas that were really beautiful, like right outside the Half-Light gate, you know, where you fight the Ring Knight. God, that was fucking beautiful. And Midear, and the first time you fight Midear, you know, when he's sort of on the edge of the that bridge, you know, it was really beautiful in some areas. But a return to Earthen Peak, like, really? Was anybody crying out to see fucking Earthen Peak again? Okay. I really didn't like that, and I wasn't a big fan of the Demon Prince boss. I didn't like Half-Light as much. Like, it was all interesting. Like, I loved playing through it, and I played through it more than once. And I feel like it's worth your money if you're into the Souls games. And again, really quick, if you go down those steps, you'll find a red-eyed hunter. He's sort of up on a beam. He'll drop down. And you can drop down again. You'll see what I'm talking about if you go down there. And you'll just follow the path, and you'll come to the Whirligig-Saw. If you want it. But, yeah, the Ringed City was great in some ways. Not so great in other ways, you know. I mean, Gale was a great fight. to sort of conclude it all. It was great. Midir was a fun fight. It was a beautiful fight. But the swamp with the random enemies thrown around and then Dragon Slayer armor just hanging out at the back. It's like, really? It just kind of felt like a little lazy. You know, it's like, here, just put a fucking swamp and just throw shit in it. Just fuck it. Just throw whatever in it, and they'll have to fucking deal with it. Like, okay. Sure. But again, this is all, you know, relative to other Souls content, right? Ring City was still great. You know, it's not like I'm saying it was crap DLC and like Call of Duty DLC is better. Not even fucking close. Ring City was great, but compared to experiences in other areas of the Souls universe, I wasn't a big fan of it. And then the Dark Souls 2 DLC, what can I say? You know, I mean, I happen to like Dark Souls 2 Vanilla. I like it, okay? And I feel like the DLC added some very interesting content, and it added some very interesting bosses, you know, and Fume Knight and Cerulean are the two best bosses in the game, and I would say they're two of the best bosses in all of these fucking games, right? And some of the views in Aesthetics and Broom Tower, fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. But the entirety of the Sunken King DLC, I think that's Shulva, right? Was bad. I didn't like any part of that. I didn't like Sin. I didn't like Squalid Queen, Elena, right? I didn't like the gank, the three-man gank. I didn't like any of the areas. I did not like that DLC at all. I did not really care so much for Ilium Lois either. I just didn't. Aesthetically, it was interesting. I didn't like any of the bosses. I didn't... Frigid Outskirts fucking sucks. We all know that. But if there was an interesting boss at the end of it, it would be worth it. But there's not. It's just Leden Zalin, and it's not an interesting boss fight. Same with Blue Smelter Demon. You run a fucking gauntlet of crap to get to Blue Smelter Demon, and it's not even fucking worth it. You know, it's still a fucking easy boss, but he's blue. Okay. So not a big fan of the DLC for Dark Souls 2. So right here, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to deal with Ludwig. He will always start off with this move. R1, L1. Sometimes you can get off that L1, sometimes not. So you want to break his legs on his right side. And I think they break right there. I think, yeah. So now we're doing just a ton of damage. You know, Beast Blood Pellets and Fire Paper for Ludwig. And he starts off with this attack, and it's a good attack to get. But that swipe right there catches me, and I don't like that. I don't do the visceral right here, and that was my mistake. I wanted to take that visceral, and I just didn't. But it's fine. We were doing enough damage anyway, and we clean him up. So it's Ludwig is fairly easy to deal with. If you go after those limb breaks and stack damage, right? So as you're building Beast Meter with the transformation attacks, your damage is going to increase. If you break those legs and hit those breaks, you'll do increased damage from the limb breaks. So you're just stacking damage as the fight goes on, and you're doing more and more and more and more and more. So when he gets to the second phase and you run up and you hit him, it's cool that this guy survived the fight, by the way. He doesn't always survive the fight. When he gets to the second phase, you can stagger fairly quickly because of how high your beast meter is, the damage that you're doing, and the fight is over fairly quickly. I get hit a couple of times. It's not perfect all the fucking time, but it still was over pretty quickly. Now, I sell the Holy Moonlight Blade. I don't have an arcane build. I don't need the fucking thing. and it's 56,000 echoes. Fuck it, I'm selling it. But it's a beautiful weapon. You know, if you want to do an arcane build, or if you just want to keep it and, you know, try and fuck about with it. Look at it, it's pretty. So yeah, I feel like this is the best DLC that FromSoft has given us. Not to say that I haven't loved parts of the other Soulsborne DLC, with the exception, I would say, Shulva. But the rest, it's still beautiful, it's still great. But this one is just above the rest just a little bit. So next, we make the run to the Research Hall and the Living Failures, and maybe Maria, maybe not. We'll see.